let's do her skin tone, and then let's see if we can pick up a colour from there. Because I tend to just go in with the skin tone and then I get an idea of what I want. So if we start out and we just do the skin tone first, and then we can make a decision on the colours around it and see what kind of matches. So I have a skin tone palette already picked out down here. This is a warm skin tone. So I'm just going to have a quick look at the others. So I've got a warm, a neutral and a cool here. These are I've colour picked these myself, so I think I'm going to go for the cool for now, and then let's just try and get a base down and see where we want to go from there. So I'm going to be using the round brush to blend and to paint. So I'm just going to go straight in like I always do and put down a flat lay colour. That needs to be at the top. So we can just get the area filled in, and then we can start going in with any shadows that we want once we've got that base layer down. So I don't know where you guys are. I know a lot of you are in America right now. So I'm in the UK. It's nearly 8 PM and it's still really bright outside. It's how fast our summers tend to come on, that we have winter and it's so dark all the time, and then we get partially into spring and that's it. Our nights are filled, you know, the light stays out much longer. In winter, our nights can be dark from about 4 PM onward. Whereas in the summer, they sometimes don't get dark till gone 10 PM. So at the minute we have some really clear nights. It's lovely and warm outside as well, which is why the wasps are all out. But they managed to keep sneaking in the cabin, so I'm going to have to go and find out how they're doing that. So as you can see, I'm not being particularly careful. When it comes to things like the flowers, I'm not going to worry about going over the top because they will be coloured on a layer above anyway, so we don't need to worry about that. But around the outer lines I should be a little bit more careful. But I also know that this is going to be a layer lower down, so for example the clothes will sit on top of this layer as well. So there's not too much to worry about really, just keeping things a bit tidy. Now I know that this colour is a very peachy colour. We're going to tone that down before I go on and do any layers on top, because this is a very bright colour. So I'm just going all the way around. And I'm just cleaning up really, because I can never seem to stay in the lines. I'm not going to worry about the flowers. They'll be sitting on a layer above, so that's not a problem. And maybe just come round here. Okay, so, oh, we forgot about the other leg. Do this side and then we are done. I think that down there is supposed to be leg as well. So what's the weather like where you are in the world right now? As I said, here in the UK it's lovely and sunny, and it's been really quite warm today actually, especially considering we're only April. So what has the weather been like for you guys? Okay, so that's the base layer down. Now let's tone that down, because that is a lot. We can go on over here and we can kind of change and adjust, and we just need to take some of that saturation out. That it's, you know, it's very orange, so let's just bring that down. We don't necessarily have to go brighter, we just want to bring that down so the saturation just isn't as much, maybe to about there. So it was at 50%, we've only come down to 39%, and it has made a massive difference. So I think we'll stay there. And we're going to alpha lock that into position. We're going to select the layer and move up to a layer above. So now we're going to be thinking about all of the shadows. So I'll colour pick my base colour, and then we're going to move up and down this line here. So I'm going to come down. Whereabouts are you, Kathy? Star, whereabouts are you? I know you're both in the US, but whereabouts in the US? West Texas. Some place that I've wanted to visit is Texas. Yeah, so right, I'm here. We're going to start adding the shadows in. So as always, because we've alpha locked it, we're not going to affect anything else around it, so we don't need to worry about that, which means we can go right in to our lines, into our black ink lines, and not worry about going over the lines anywhere. That is not a problem. So we're going to be placing this down, trying to, in our heads, work out where these shadows would naturally be. Kathy, you're in California, close to Yosemite National Park. Yeah, I think I spoke to you before about that. I've really wanted to go there. I'd love to visit America altogether. I just really would like to come and just see the difference between, I mean, I know we're tiny in comparison. We don't have open spaces as such. The way that whenever people just they describe America as having, you know, literal open land spaces. And somebody live streamed on my Facebook, I think it was last year or so, and it just popped up. So I watched the live stream, and I can't remember what they said that they were, but they said it was big sky country, and they were out in the countryside, and they literally panned their camera around, and I completely understand what they mean. I didn't know what a big sky, essentially the way that they were describing it was, but when they panned their camera around, and it was just nothing but sky forever, it just kept on going and going and going, and you don't really get that here because of how small we are. I mean, we can go out into the countryside, but it's not the same thing. I mean, obviously we have we do have a lot of countryside still, but I don't know, it's just not the same. Guys, that wasp is back. I'm gonna have to get this wasp. It's like it's robotic. How is it not dying? It's like the angriest wasp in the world. I'm on live stream, but we have a huge wasp that won't leave. I'm gonna have to finish this and then I'll don't feed her anymore. Alright guys, I am still in the room. I'm sorry, I just want to get rid of this wasp before it kills me. It's massive. I've lost it again now. They're massive, aren't they? Alright, just shut that too, because I've got people like waiting on me. I still didn't get it. That wasp is trying to kill me. It's absolutely massive. I'm sorry I have to keep stepping away, but I don't want to be stung by the wasp. Sorry. Yeah, the ducks aren't impressed either. You could hear them quacking at the door. I don't know what it is. It's still too early for wasps, but all of a sudden they're just absolutely massive. And they just keep getting into the cabin. Right, okay, we're back. So we are working on the shadows. So I'm doing it the way that I always do it. We're working around the areas that we think would be in shadow the most. So the parts that will sculpt the shape of the face is the nose, and even like around the cheek areas. I'm going to leave that at the moment. And we're just going to work down into all the places that are the easiest for us to recognise that would be in shadow. So around her clothes, obviously where her hair is sitting. Actually, is that right? There's right. Her hair's going behind, so maybe not there. Let's come this way instead. And because this isn't, it's not realistic in the style of drawing. It is still animated. It's still illustrated. If you do something that should be correct, but you don't like the look of it, don't stick with it. It's not a big deal. You're doing whatever it is that you want to do. And if you think it looks good a certain way, just go with it. I'm going to put that whole area into darkness, because if it's sitting behind you, it's going to be really dark down there. And although these are borders on the pages, I still like to cast shadows from them. And it's the same way that I tell everybody, when you're colouring like this, and before we start adding any lighting effects, you, the colourist, you're the light bulb. So if you're the light bulb, you'll be shining directly onto this girl. So you're putting the shadows and the lights in according to you being the light source. If, of course, you are going to be colouring, thinking about light sources in different directions on the page, then yeah, obviously there'll be a difference in where the shadows should be. That would be something that you would need to consider. But when I'm doing mine like this, I'm quite happy to, unless I've already pre-planned that I'm going to have a completely different light source.
I didn't know that one.
Alexa, stop playing. Alexa decided to get involved there. Oh, she's doing it again. This is why I normally turn my Alexa off. I'm always a little bit worried that she's listening too much, that she just seems to chime into the conversation. Okay, so I think why? Oh, that's why. We are almost done with the basic of the shadows. I come down into the foot, and then we're going to go there. Just add a little bit of shape, and then down there. Yeah, I know, guys, it is. It's Alexa, isn't it? They just decide to get involved all the time. Although my Alexa in my cabin links up to my daughter's in her bedroom. So when I first bought the Alexas, she nicked that one, so I had this one. And I'd worked out that I could call... I'm an awful parent. I could call her Alexa in the bedroom, and I'm sure it was near Halloween. So I found online this like creepy little like voicemail thing. It was supposed to be funny. I wasn't going to scare her completely. And I rang it from my Alexa, and I played like this really creepy voice down the Alexa, and yeah, it definitely scared her. She's nearly 15. She knew it was a joke, but for those first few seconds she was thinking, how is my Alexa ringing and who the hell is on the phone? So that was fun. But my kids are used to that. I've always played quite a lot of practical jokes on them. They're used to it now. So this is all of the areas where it's most obvious that there'd be shadows. So we're going to come back up now, and we're going to focus on her facial features. So the way that I have drawn these girls is, I'll show you how I do it when I'm creating the nose, the bridge, and the shape of the face. So you've got the eye sockets, and what I do, I'll bring that down, and we can connect there and there. I'm going to come down to a smaller brush, And we also need to consider her face is slightly on the side as well. So I'm just going to loosely connect this up here, and then we can take another look and decide whether or not we like it that way. We need to add some more shape as well. And then the same on this side. And then once it's all connected, we can decide if we like it, and if not, we just need to adjust the shape. But essentially, that is how I connect those when I'm drawing them. We definitely need more. Let's maybe more of a shape that way, and bring that side in a little bit more. And then once we blend, we can start looking at the bits we do like or we don't like, and then I always put that bit down there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop this layer down because we're currently working on the layer above. So if I drop this layer down here, and it's alpha locked, so we're not going to lose any of the details outside of the lines, and we're going to start blending these in together. So I'm going to leave the face, I'm going to come down and do the rest. So all I'm going to do for these areas is buff out these hard lines, because it's most likely that we're going to add another colour so that it's darker than what we already have it as. So I'm just going to blend these lines out so that we can add another layer, a darker layer, if that's what we want to do, which I think is probably most likely. So I just don't want any harsh lines, that's all. So I kind of blend the line away, and then I buff it by just using small circles, because I still want it to follow that same shape. And we can come up and we can drag it out a little bit, and then we can just blend that out. So that there's no hard lines. Just like that. And if we feel like we need to add a little bit more in, we can go back and we can add a little bit more in. I'm going to do the same on this side. And then just bring it all the way down. And then just buff it out at the edges. And then what I'm going to do on this side is I'm actually going to add some more and then do it again. I want that line or that darker area to be a little bit bigger than it was. So, and then we can create that shape at the top. We can pull it back and have a look at what we've done. And then all I need to do is adjust this here. So we need it buffed out a little bit more, and then I want this crease to be dragged down a little bit. It's too high, but I do like the definition there. So like that. And then we'll come down and do the same down here. Not a massive amount of detail. So all we're doing is just blending these lines out. So if you're watching today and you're new to Procreate, I use Procreate to draw all of my books. I sometimes start with a sketch, but I'm quite used to sketching on the iPad as well now. So I can generally start with just an idea and we just go from there. It's brilliant if you're colouring books in. If you can get them in digital format, it works really well. It's not a drag and drop or a click and fill kind of way to colour books. You do have to use the tools, use the paintbrushes and actually colour them. With the way that I'm doing it right now, you would need a pen or well, this is an Apple Pencil, goes with the iPad. So it's only available on iPads at the moment. So you would need an iPad Pro, really, and a pencil. And then it's just colouring it in, very similar to the way that you would if you were just using real pencils, in the sense that that's how your hands are going to work. But there are lots of different things to learn about Procreate, in the same way there's lots of different things to learn when it comes to colouring or drawing with pens. So if you do want to have a go at digital, have a go. Don't be put off if it's hard, because it is hard at first. Everybody struggled. I did. But yeah, it's just one of those things you have to keep practicing at. Just keep practicing, keep going, because it's definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. Well, that's my opinion anyway. Let's just fill that area there a little bit better. And then we'll just blend that out. There you go. So I'm working my way upward because I want to do the face last, because that tends to be the place where we spend so much more time. So we might as well get these bits done first, and then we can move up and have a look at her face. So we've put down the flat layer. This is our second layer at the moment, and this is our shadow layer. It's our first shadow layer. There's usually two, might be three, but there's usually two when it comes to colouring and illustrations such as this. Because the shadow that we've put in at the moment is quite light, so we may decide that well, I know I'm going to want to have a darker shadow. I know that. So I'm kind of just treating this as just the first one, because I just know that I'll want another one. What brush size and opacity? So I'm painting with the round brush, which is here in the painting section. I'm blending and buffing out with the exact same one. I tend to stick to the same. If I was using an airbrush, I would then blend with an airbrush. So I do tend to stick to the same ones, depending if I'm painting with it, I'll blend with it. So that's where I'm painting from. And the opacity at the moment, my brush size is around 10%, and I've got, for blending, it's down to about 18% at the moment, because we don't want to lose the colour. We just kind of want to blend out these hard lines here. When it comes to blending, I don't tend to have it up very high at all. 20% would be really high for me, because, in fact, I'll show you, because we've got a back button. So we're down here at about 17-18%. If I come up just to 50, which is a lot for me, I'll show you what happens when you try and blend with something that big. So basically, everything just moves too easy. It's almost impossible to blend that, because it just moves everything around. And what we've done is we've placed all of our shadows down in an area we want them to stay in. So we want them to stay where they are. We just want to blend them out softly. So because of that, I'm going to bring it back all the way down to about 16%. And then you can see that our shadow stays where we put it. We are just blending out that line there. So I'm bringing it up just a little bit, 19%. So we want it to stay where it is, but we want to be able to blend that out and make it look soft. We're not looking to shift the colour by as much as it does when you're on a higher layer, higher opacity. I mean, even now sometimes I think it moves the colour, but you can always just go back in and just add that back in again. I also noticed that there's a big thing people are buying them a lot. They're tips for your iPad, well, for your pens, because people don't like that noise. I like that noise. That noise doesn't bother me, but apparently people don't like it. So they're buying little like rubber tips to stop that noise. It's a big thing. I didn't realise this, but yeah, it's a big thing when people really don't like that noise. Or I'm not particularly bothered by it, so I will not be buying a rubber tip for the pen. I don't see the point. Plus the fact I wouldn't want to take away from the pen from being so responsive. It is so responsive. And that's what we were looking for when they upgraded everything. So I wouldn't change that really. And I'm just going to make this a little bit thicker down here. No, I don't mind the noise either, Heather. It doesn't bother me. So again, we're doing the exact same thing. I'm going to buff all the outer areas out, and then we'll focus on the center, and you can see what I mean about the way it changes the page from just being a flat drawing, just line art, to actually having some depth and 3D to it. Oh, hi Heather, no problems at all. I like teaching, so I'm cool coming on and doing these live streams. They're good for me. Plus the fact it makes me actually do some work. If I'm not stuck here chasing around wasps, that is. I've definitely been focusing a lot lately on trying to get my social media presence up, because I think a lot of artists are the same as me. We all plan on doing so many things, and then we get side, you know, we end up basically just getting involved in something completely different. I was supposed to be doing I kind of am. I am drawing for the new book, and then out of nowhere I decided that I wanted to try some landscapes, and I just think that's what artists are like. We just get too drawn into what we're doing, and then we forget that we're supposed to be doing other things as well. So I think when I do a live stream like this, it actually makes me focus. And the fact I tell the kids they're not allowed to come down to the cabin and interrupt me every 5 minutes, which is always a good thing, because otherwise they'd be down here all the time. Okay, so we're now going to focus on trying to make her nose look 3D without it looking quite as messy as it is at the moment. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to buff these areas out, and then we're going to see what we're going to work with. I want to keep that shadow there. Let's buff it out, and then we can decide how we want to change the shape and see what that does and how it changes her face shape by doing that. So we're going to have basically the kind of basic idea of her nose and the shadows and where they should be, and then we can kind of change them by tweaking them, and then that will change the structure of her face. So let's just blend this out as it is and then have a look. So her face is already slightly on the side, so her head isn't straight on. So we need to allow for the fact that this side will be in shadow more than the other. But at the same time, it helps to create the structure of the face, so we don't want to forget that. So my brush isn't very big at the moment, and all I'm doing is I'm just slightly moving things. If that's the eye socket there, I want to come down maybe a little bit darker in here. And then bring a little definition there, I think. Maybe spread this out, drag this out a little bit further, because we are seeing more on that side of her face. So let's pull that out a little bit. And then this side will definitely be clipped in a little bit more just because of the angle. So if we do the same thing, we kind of followed it down here. Let's do the same this side. So without having to make that hard decision on where it should be, we did that, and that is, I'm going to remove that because I already blended that side. But by following the lines we already have in place through the drawing, this line here has taken you down to here, and this one here takes you down to here, and it's the exact same thing there and then there. So the face shape is already, or the nose shape, sorry, is kind of already created. You can do that however you want. If you decide you don't like that and you want to move that, then that's obviously, wrong one, perfectly fine. I am just going to make this maybe a little bit tighter here. And all I've done, this is just my base colour. I'm just adding a little bit more of my base colour, so I can just blend that in a little bit more and then bring that round. So if we come out again, we can see it like that. So I have my base colour, and all I want to do is maybe we can have a highlight on that side of the nose. Like that. And then at the same time, we still need to add, there still needs to be shadow on this side. And that can sit behind there. And I'm just gently blending these out, just so there's no lines. Like that. And we can even bring that in a little bit further. And then what I want to do is bring this underneath here. So she's got that shadow underneath her nose still. And then if we blend that again. The other thing is, at the moment we are only putting shadows in. So once we start putting highlights in, it doesn't change the face again, but it attenuates what we're already trying to do. So we won't have completed like the structure without adding in the highlights, which will be coming soon anyway. So I'm going to leave the nose there because we can, you know, kind of faff about for it a little bit more when we start adding some other colours. So that is where we are at the moment. Now I think that we need to have a darker shadow there as well. So all I'm going to do is come up another layer. Let me select again before I come up. And then I would normally, where's my shadow layer gone? We'll go there. And then just drag down a little bit further till we get a slightly darker colour. And then we're just going to go back in again. But to maybe it will speed things up a little bit. Let me see. If we use an airbrush instead of that hard brush. There you go. It still creates a line though. I was wondering whether or not it would help us with not having to blend as much. Well, I think it does actually. That helps. So I've changed over. I'm now airbrushing and I'm using a soft brush. And I'm going to do the same thing, my airbrush and a soft brush for blending. So what I'm trying to do is add this darker shadow in without having to go all the way back round and blend everything back in all over again. So I'm just being quite gentle, and all I'm doing is going into the areas we already did, but I'm just adding a slightly darker colour. And with me using this soft airbrush, there isn't really any hard lines there. Now, I don't normally do it this way. Oh, that's a bit too much. But I do think you could do it this way, actually. As long as you can be quite light, you don't put too much pressure on. I'd probably still end up blending a little bit anyway, because I think I'm a bit controlling that way. But actually, I think it does work. And this is the blending. Yeah, I mean, it is quite quick doing it this way. Probably a good thing if we wanted to save time. I think this would work if you were looking to save time. I like blending myself. mean, I'm going to stick with this method now we've started it, but I actually like blending. Oh no, what have I done? That's better. I mean, I can see the difference between doing it with better precision the other way than doing it this way, but I do think it still looks good. So we'll stick, now we've committed, we will stick to this way and see how it goes. And then I think this is the last part here. And what I'll do, I'll show you what it looks like when we turn this off, because although there's no lines here, I am still thinking about bone structure. So I've kind of carved out her knee there, even though I've not drawn those lines in. I've done it anyway with the colours, so it's way too big. We are still creating like structure, even though we're colouring and not drawing as such. So I think that's okay. Right, I haven't done this before. I haven't used an airbrush on the face, but we will see how we go. I'm on another layer anyway, so if it goes completely wrong, we could just turn it off. But all I'm doing is just being really gentle here. I'm going to still put that shadow in and down there as well, and then just blend this out slightly. That needs fixing. And that's the other thing as well, I get used to doing things a certain way, and to be honest, the best place or time to experiment is with digital medium, because obviously if you really hate it or it goes wrong, you can just push the back button, or you know, start again, or just delete that layer. So when it comes to experimentation, we really should probably do it a lot more than we really do. I know a lot more than I do, because I just kind of like my way and that's how I do it. But actually, I think that looks okay. Let's blend these out a little bit more. Yeah, I think we're okay. So this is what it looks like once we've got the base and 2 shadow layers down. I don't like that. Just blend that out a little bit. There you go. So I'll drop that down, and then you can see, if I just focus in on her face, you can see that there has, we've definitely started to create some sort of 3D effect here. It's no longer a completely flat image. So when I turn the colour off, it really does make a difference to the picture. You can see I can't explain it myself. The difference is just unbelievable. This is just completely flat. There's no depth to it, but all it takes is some colour, and then you can do that, which makes it a completely different picture. We don't get to see that when we're colouring with pens or pencils. We don't get to look back and see what we have or haven't done. I think it's brilliant. So that is the first couple of layers. Our next layer we want to be doing is the blush layer. So I'm going to go slightly lighter than the darkest colour we have, and then bring it around and pick a warm colour. So I've kept my colour picked area the same, because I've just colour picked from here, and all I'm doing is moving this. So I'm going to bring it down somewhere here. I don't like here. This is too pink, too purple, not natural. So it's somewhere around. I'm going to go about here. And I'm going to have to go back to my own paintbrush, because I like it that way. So I'm not going to use the airbrush this time. I'm going to use my own paintbrush. Where is it? There. And we're now back to using the round brush to paint and to blend and I've got it as the eraser if I need it. I'm on a layer above, so now I need to select it and move up a layer to here. And now I'm just going to start adding some of this blusher in. Now I never just add it to, why is that not showing up? Just me. Just me. So I never just add it to just the blush areas. I always bring it into the rest of the face, the skin tone, all over really. Let me clear that and start again because I don't know what I was doing then. So let's bring it in here. That's what I was doing wrong there. So I am going to bring it in onto the face so it is like blush, but I'm also going to use it everywhere else as well. I'm going to use it in the shadowed areas so I can just make everything a little bit warmer. And I'm hardly putting any pressure down at all, so I may not even need to blend this out everywhere else. I just like to use the same colours all over so that everything just kind of blends together well. So I'm not being particularly careful, I'm just being really light and just blending it all the way around. I really like the shadow on this part here, so I don't want to add too many details there. And then I'm going to come back up and I'm going to go in darker here. Let's just add some more colour. And we'll go here. Let's go here. And then around. And then I want to go under her nose as well, and then all the way down to her chin. And all I'm going to do is just gently blend that all out. So there's no lines. So we don't need to, there's no lines in there. There's no lines on your face anyway. So I've got quite a large brush because I'm just blending it out. I'm not really worried about keeping it in a specific area. We just want it to be quite natural all over. And if I want to add some more into her cheeks, I'll do that again once this is all kind of buffed out. So I'm just going all the way around. I'm just making sure that there's just no lines in there, but we've not taken away, we've not moved things around too much. I mean, we spent so long placing all the shadows in the right places, we wouldn't want to go off and move them straight away. I think I'm going to adjust this section. I'm not happy with it. I'm just going to put that whole area in shadow. It makes no sense otherwise. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's better. And then I'm going to just blend some of these shadows out a little bit more on her face. I just feel like the lines are a little bit harsh. So that's better. And I can still kind of cut it in for her chin. Oh, and then still bring it that way, like that. So if I come back up to that top layer, and then we can add maybe a little bit more. So we've got some more colour, and then the same. Let's put some there as well, and then the same there. Like that. Right, we're going to leave it for that for now. If we want to add anything else later on, we can. And I think that's probably fine for the blush layer. And we're going to move on to the highlights now. So in the same way that the shadows change the structure of the face, highlights do, but I think they do them even more so. just because of how bright they are. So I'm going to select my layer again and then move up a layer. And in order to get the correct colour to highlight, I'm going to colour pick my base colour. So just anywhere on the body where that base colour is. And I know this here hasn't been messed with. It's got no layers on it. So that's my base colour. And I'm just going to go directly above. And then double check that it works. And it does. So this one works. For example, that one, actually, I keep doing this. That's a bad example. Let's move over a little bit more. That one does not. That's got a yellow undertone. That's got a pink undertone. And this is more of a tan undertone. And overall, her skin has a pink undertone. This one, I do quite like it, actually. We may be able to mix that with this one a little bit more. So we can get a kind of in-between of those two. But this one is too tan. So if I clear that again, and I'm going to colour pick my base colour, and then we're just going to lift up and then see what we've got. It's that colour. So that's going to be the highlight colour. I actually quite liked that yellow one. Let's see what that one looks like. I think it's still got too many undertones of yellow. So we will go there. So we are on the highlighting now. We are on selecting that level and we've moved up one to the next layer. And what we're going to be picking out now is all the places on the face that we think would have the highlights. So I'm not going to be particularly careful either, not at this stage, because I'm not working on that level we've just put all that hard work into. We're on the level above or the layer above. So if we go wrong, it's not a problem. We can just erase that, start again. It doesn't affect what we've already done. So I'm just going to start putting some of this colour down in all the areas that we think the face would be hit with a highlight, or even just brighter parts of the skin, because it's of the face, it stands forward. So I'm going to just try and pick up some facial features. And you know what, I think what we'll do with this girl, because I don't think I've shown you how I do that, we'll do freckles as well. So this girl will have freckles. I think she's going to need another highlight layer as well, actually. So all I'm doing is thinking about where, if I was the light bulb and I was shining onto her right now, where would the brightest part be? That is what we're thinking about when we're adding in highlights. So definitely there, and down this part of her leg, because that's the bit that's facing me. Maybe a little bit more on her cheeks here. And I think here, maybe a bit more there. So I'm going to stay on this upper layer. We're not going to drop it. I'm going to blend here, just in case it goes horribly wrong. So all I want to do is blend these lines out. We can go in again and make more details, but I just want to make sure that all these lines are blended out first and they're in the correct place. So we can pull it in if we think that we've highlighted it, it's spread too much, because we don't want to overall affect the skin tone. We're looking to create the highlights. So some of these ones that are quite bright, I'm going to keep them tucked right in, and the same on this side. Do the same there, and then we can use this shape here to form like the shape of her chin, and that one's going to go there, but it's still going to get cut off by that shadow, and the same here. So although it may be there, we still have to consider the shadow as well. Now I'm going to use a much bigger blending tool here, because all I'm trying to do is just buff that out. I'm not a fan of that arm there. I don't know what it is that I've done wrong. I think maybe it's the hair. I think maybe it's a bit too much. There you go, I think that's better. So I'm just gonna blend this out. And I'm not focusing too many details here, not just yet, because I also think that we could concentrate on so many details that we kind of lose the overall feel of the picture. I obviously want to have quite accurate shading, but at the same time I just want it to look good. So if it maybe doesn't scientifically look correct, it doesn't really matter. I just want it to be the way I like it. So I normally quite like to have, when the light shines off something, I quite like to have that lovely strobe of light, like a really sharp light, but it does depend on the environment that they're sat in. I mean, at the moment, I think this is probably almost enough as a highlight. I'm not sure we need to add any more. Just spread that around there, but I don't want to lose that shape. So I'm just going to keep that tight in that area, and the same here as well. I do not want to lose that. I really like that shape there. Okay, so if we pull back and have a look at that and see what we think. Just blend these little bits out here. And what I think we need to do, even if it's just the face, I think we need another layer with a brighter colour, but one that's used to sculpt rather than to layer or to blend outward. So what colours do you recommend using pens to do the same effect? What do you mean? Do you mean for highlights and pencils? Oh, okay, so I actually have a way of doing this. Let me show you. So this is the new book that's out. In the back of the book, I have put in how to colour using marker pens and pencils. So we're here, look. So this is the colouring workshop. And I've put in here colouring skin. And what I've done, I've mapped out the areas of the face where you should be putting the colours. So we're talking about the base, the shadow, the warmth, the highlight and the blush. So yeah, I've drawn it as like a map. And then you need to decide which colours these are. So obviously your base is going to go all over, especially if it's pencil, because you can layer and blend things in together. The warmth layer is a layer that's kind of added with pencils. When I'm working digitally, I use the blush and then I use that everywhere else for warmth as well. That will work with pencils sometimes. You kind of have to make that call. If you think that it's too red, you know, swap it down to a peach if you're going to try and spread that colour out across the rest of the skin tone as well. So I've highlighted where on the face these things need to be placed. And this works as well for marker pens, but you have to make sure that... Oh, you lost audio. Can you hear me now? Sorry, I'll quickly recap. I think we've lost audio. Can everybody hear me now? Okay, yeah, so it's kind of mapped out on a face on where all these things should go. So this is the first one, and feel free, if you do buy this book, if you want to photocopy this, do it. So you can photocopy it and practice. The next one down, I've mapped out the areas with a lighter kind of gradient. And when I say these are the areas on which they should sit down, I don't mean that you would colour and stay within these grey lines here. You should still be blending out and you should still be layering, but this is where predominantly I would put those colours. And now we are on the page where I've put none of the mapped out areas. You're going to have to work them out for yourself on this one here. And then, of course, I give you lots of little ones for you to go off and practice. So the best way to... Heather, the name of my new book is The Darling Collection Portraits, and it's from Amazon and also from my Etsy shop. But this is hardback, so if you want the hardback edition, it is from Amazon. You need to work out how you want all the colours that you want to use on a portrait. So the way that I do this, for example, it's still very similar to the way that I would do it digitally. If I get... I'll just grab my pencil so I can show you. So my base colour, let me move my light round so you can see a little bit better. So if I decide that this is going to be my base colour, this is Nectar. What I would do in this, I would literally put down and I would colour in that area there. So this is my base colour. So if I want a shadow colour, I'm looking at this one and I'm going to go 2 shades darker than this one. So let me grab my pencils and I would say we're going to be about here. So this is my base and this is my shadow. This is 2 shades darker. We're going to leave the warmth for a minute. We're going to move over to the blush. So I would keep this shadow colour and I would look for something which is more within the pinks and the reds, but at the same kind of level. It's no darker, it's not lighter, it's around the same. But we're just changing the tone over to warmth. So then I could pick up something like crimson red. So here's my base, here's my shadow, and here's my blush. So now we have to think about highlights. So when you're colouring with pencils, your highlights need to be thought about straight away, because obviously it's harder to make pencils lighter once they're already down. So because my shadow was 2 shades darker than my base, my highlight has to be 2 shades higher than my base, which would go that side. So we're now highlight, base, shadow and blush. And for a warm colour all over, I literally look at them and I decide what colour is missing. This is a very kind of peachy, not peach actually, this is more of a pink coloured skin tone. So I would probably bring in some sort of orangey colour, which can be a peach colour. That is peach. I would go for something a little bit, maybe a little bit stronger, to be honest, because you can go in with a bright pink. You just don't push really hard with pencils. So there's a pumpkin orange there. So what I've ended up with is my base colour, my shadow, my blush, my highlight, and my warmth. So if you follow what it says here in the book, you'll be able to fill all these spaces up. If you make sure that you put your pencil in the right place, put your pencil number underneath and do it, especially if you print these out a couple more times, get some copies. And once you've done that and you have them down, you know where you're putting them, you can start building your own little collection of portrait colours. So, which is why I've added these. So what I've done with all my pencils, depending on the brands, I'll have, say, Prismacolor, and then I'll have a dark portrait, a medium, a fair, a peachy portrait, a cool portrait. And that means that when I want to do a specific painting, I say painting, but I also mean with pencils, I don't have to sit there and try and work them out all over again. Sometimes you can just grab them and it works perfect, and sometimes it doesn't. So it's always good to come back basically to your map. It's like a map of everything that you want to happen. So if you're looking for a cool palette, you can come back, literally find it in your book, get those pencils, and you know it's going to work. That's what I do with portraits when it comes in pencils. And then of course I've added these extra portraits for hair, because I love doing hair, and then for eyes as well. And you've got these swatch indexes, and then you've got colour combos. You can write down the numbers and everything that you like there, just so you can keep a track of them all. So if I was working with pencils, that is what I would do. Right, I'm going to move this light back because it's blinding me, and then we will go back to the iPad. every time. There. So this is where we are currently. And I've completely forgotten where we were. What were we doing? Highlights. We were doing highlights. So I'm going to leave the skin like that at the moment. I think we are going to have some more highlights coming in on her nose and maybe on her face, but I think we can do that a little bit later on. So what I'm going to do is now the lightest part of the portrait altogether. Oh, thank you, Star. I only started to do that with the Little Darlings books. Yeah, I think you're also right, Heather. I think I may have been down. Denise, yeah, I think I was down here. Yeah, Star, I've done that since the very first Little Darling, and they've kind of grown, which is why I built the colouring workshops as well. Because I know some people find it really easy to read something and then follow along. And when I was teaching, I know I randomly talk about different things, but when I was teaching, we were always taught there was different learners. You have visual learners, which is perfect if you can just look at something and do it. You obviously then have practical, where people need to see you do it and then they need to have a go and do it back. You have auditory, which is very hard on the internet. It's very hard to be able to do that. And then it takes a whole bunch of those to make people understand how to create new things or gather these new skills. So I thought in the books, if I actually put in them how I do things, and then I have the colouring workshop for people who would like to jump on and actually watch me do it, then it would help. And to be honest with you, the colouring workshops were really, really popular. I haven't been running them the last couple of months, but I will be bringing them back in again. I'm thinking by the summer. Because it depends on whether or not you're one of those learners that needs to see it, hear it, or have a go at it. Whereas because we can do them online with a camera, and it's not the way that this is. So you can see me, but I can't see you right now. Whereas in my classes, we can see both ways. It's basically a video call between me and the students, and I take no more than 10. So they can see me, I can see them, and they can colour along at the same time. And then when they finish, I can literally say, show me all what you've done, and everyone picks them up to the camera. So we can actually have a conversation back and forth about exactly what it is that you're doing or what you're trying to learn, which I think is obviously the best way of trying to teach and to learn anything. So yeah, they'll be back in, I think, maybe next month, the month after, as a definite, because I really enjoy doing them. So I'm putting the backlight, I say backlight, it's not at all, is it? I'm putting the white area of the eyes in, and you'll notice that it's not exactly white, because no one's is really ever that white. I'm just going for a very light, basically a very, very light skin tone colour, and we can brighten that up if we have to, but at the minute I think that's quite bright. And what I'm going to do now, I have this colour here, I'm going to add the smallest amount of just some extra highlights. And I'm going to try and do it so that I don't really have to blend it out, that I just use the paintbrush to do it. And then we can just pick up that, move the pressure up, pick the pressure up if we want to add a little bit more to it. So you can see that it definitely kind of makes a difference. And because the pen it picks up on, I am going to blend because I'm just too fussy, it picks up on the pressure that you use as well. Yeah, I think I'm just going to do that for now. I know that I've got that bit there that I haven't blended out very well, and there as well. So just blend those bits out a little bit. That's on the layer down. And then leave it like that for now, I think. So because I tend to like my skin tones and everything to be natural, I'm going to take the blush colour and use them on her lips. I know I've said a couple of times now I should, because I've seen other people, I've seen some of people out there colouring my colouring pages, and they actually use it's still pencils, but they act as if the girl has got makeup on. So they'll give her like eyeshadow, and I've never done it yet. I need to do that. I keep saying that I need to do it, but then I'm never brave enough. I just tend to really like the natural colours. So let us, I think we're cool. I think that this, her skin tone is done, I think. I'm happy with that. Let's just drag this shadow out a little bit. I think that's too straight. Maybe like that instead. There you go. Yeah. So our next question is, what colour are we going to do her hair? And then that should then make us consider the background. What other colours we should have as the colour palette overall. I actually saw, well, I did it by accident the other day. I'd coloured one of the girls in, and she had like blue hair or something, and then I accidentally clicked on the wrong layer and it made it silver. I really want to do a silver one, but I think her skin tone is too warm for that. And I know last time I did her hair red for the front cover, so I really shouldn't do the same thing again. But I can see why I did that. I picked her blush and then I used that in her hair. Maybe if we decide what colour eyes she has, let's brighten this up a little bit more. And then let's pick some eye colours, and then we can decide what we want to do everywhere else. And I've really been loving this range here just recently. I don't know why. I just really love these colours. Let's go with that for her eyes. So I'm going to put this base colour down first on both eyes. And then lock that into position with Alpha Lock and come up a layer. And I'm going to select the layer and then come up a layer. And I'm going to add a kind of gradient here. So underneath her lashes would have the darkest colour. And then basically just move up as we move around, kind of like her eye, like a disc. And then come up again. And then the same this side. And then up again. May need to bring this side down a little bit. And then come up again. And then we're going to go right in the centre there and there. So I'm dropping that layer down. It's alpha locked into position, and I'm going to blend that out using the round brush. And all I want to do is just get rid of like the joining lines of the two colours, so they look like they flow together rather than there's a separator. So that's all I'm looking for, is just rid of those harsh lines there. And then just come all the way around. And then we can follow the shape of the eye if we feel like we need to have a little bit more of a blend. I'm not worried about this here because this is a light strobe, so I'll show you that in a second. I am literally just gotta blend these out. Like that. And then we have these white lights that I always draw here. There and there. And then the same on the other side. There and there. So that's our eyes. So now we can start to look at what colours we would like to introduce. So we have, let's build a palette at the top up here. We have this kind of turquoisey green colour. So that's colour 1. we now need to decide what are the colours we would like to bring in. So although this is different shades, it's the same colour. So let's go in about here and we can start looking at the colour wheel and see what else comes up. So if I keep it in the same position, but I move around, I'm not really sure. Hang on. I have a question that maybe you could incorporate there. Doing a blue siren girl. Oh, okay, so you're using hints of blue or purple or green. How can I do that on a different layer? Because you're not using Procreate, I'm not entirely sure because of the program that you're using. But if you're using layers, do they have any of these options? So it's not just a normal layer. I use these different settings here because they're different lights. So I can add overlays. So if you're thinking of adding a colour that's not already there, you can work with overlays or lighting. That's how I would add another colour over the top. So I would be looking for overlays, soft light, hard light, or there's another one that I use quite a lot, hue. That's what I'd be looking for. If you can go into your settings, put the colour down wherever you want it, and then literally just change the settings and see which one works the best. I think that works because we need to visually see how it's going to affect the picture and what difference it's going to make. So if I was you, I'd put the colour down and then start cycling through the different effects that it has and see how that would change the colour for you. That's probably the best advice that I would give without being able to see the program. But Kathy obviously is much better at that than me because she uses the same program. Okay, so we have this kind of warm, I don't know what colour that is. I can't explain that colour. We come back round here. It's like a pink and purpley mauve colour, I think. I quite like them so far. So they're the colours we have at the moment. I always think we should bring a gold or something in. So there's that, although I do think that's a little bit dark. When it comes to the yellows, we can see that's too dark. Let's just decide on the yellow ourselves. I liked that one that came up about here. So we'll have that one and then we'll bring it dark ourselves to about there. So there's 3 colours. We need 2 more. Any ideas? What else could we use? I think it's going to have to be a blue, isn't it? Blue or a purple maybe. I never use these dark purples. I never use them. Maybe I should use them this time. Let's see if we have any down here. And then let's pick this one up down here. Maybe a blue. I quite like that blue actually. And let's get that one from there. I like these 2 blues. They're like denim blues. Okay, so that's going to be our colour palette then. So I'll move that to the top so we don't lose it. That there is our colour palette. So yeah, Kathy, I agree. It just takes some experimentation, doesn't it? I think if you put the colours down and then cycle through and see what happens, that's how I worked out how most things work through Procreate. You just literally have to just go with it, see what happens. Yeah, so they're going to be our colours then. And I don't want to do a blue background this time. I think we should try something different. But I'm really liking these blue colours. I'd like to see what her hair would look like if we went with those colours. I'm going to drop her eyes down because they're finished. And then we're going to go in and have a look at what this blue colour would look like if we did her hair like that. So obviously this is going to be the darker tone anyway, and it's going to have some highlights. But I really like this blue colour. It feels a bit like a denim colour to me. I'm going to go straight over the flowers, because they're going to be coloured in on the top of the hair, so it doesn't matter. So if we just flat lay this completely, and then what we can do, we can cycle through the colours we already have and make a decision. But if we just get one colour down, we can see what we think. Even though it's going to be quite rough. I do like this colour. I'm not going to worry about staying in the lines at the moment. But I think I am going to do her eyebrows, because we want to see whether or not it matches with the skin tone as well, not just whether we like the colour. So we'll get them in here as well. Now obviously this is going to be the darkest. We're still going to have the medium and then the highlights as well on her hair. But this should give us a feel about whether or not we like the blue against her skin tone. Because the skin tone's quite warm, but this is a warm blue. You don't normally get warm blues, but this is a warm blue. So what we can do, if I duplicate that, and I'm going to turn it off so I can save it in case we do like it. So this is the blue colour that we have. And what we can do is, if I select that, we can change. So let's see what the purple would look like. So we have the purple or the blue. Now the purple is definitely a lot warmer. So looking at them both now, I can't decide actually. I quite like both of them. Okay, so let's do it again. We'll add the next colour. So if I select that, I can take our next colour. Maybe she could be blonde. Let's put that colour down. See, that's nice as well though, guys. I like that. I do like that. So we've got blonde, purple, blue. Purple, blonde. And we're going to do it again. So if I select that, and let's get that colour. Now this is very similar to the last colour. Well, it's not, but it kind of is. The last colour that I did. And then I'm going to do it again. And we'll do it with this colour here. And then we can make a decision. Now that does go really nice with her eyes. Now I didn't think about that, but that does go nice with her eyes. So if I bring her up to there, we have the green, the mauve colour, the blonde, the purple, and then the blue. And I have to say, I like all of them. So you guys, you're going to have to decide. We need to have a vote. So these are all the colours that you've got. Can everybody in the chat, there's 6 people in the chat. Oh no, I think because I'm classed as 1, so maybe there's 5. If everyone can put down which one they like the best, and then we'll have to go with the most popular. So again, we have, start at the bottom. We have the blue, the purple, the blonde, the mauve, or the green. And I can't decide. So we have 2 blue, oh, 2 blues and blondes, because you can't decide, blue or blonde. Hi Mary, Mary's going for purple, Denise is going for blue, green or blonde. Do you know what, I think we have a tie between the blue and the blonde, don't we? Oh, that might have just tipped it. Donna's gone for blonde. How many blonde? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be blue or blonde. Yeah, I think the green's too much. We'll get rid of the green. I don't want that colour. And I didn't want purple. So we are between the blue and the blonde. I don't normally do blonde, you know, but I actually do like the blonde myself. But it's up to you. If everyone can go, because we have everyone saying blue and blonde, so you have to pick one. Pick one, blue or blonde. And then we can add up how many, and we'll just stick with it. Star's going for blonde. Donna is blonde. Denise is blue. Heather is blue. Oh, Denise, you want a blonde? Okay, so I think blonde's winning. 1, 2, 3. I think blonde might be winning, you know, guys. Okay. Still like blue, blue, blue. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2 for blue. I think blonde just won. But what we can do, because I think the blue's really good as well. But you see how I was stuck on, I thought for 100% I'd be going for the blue until I put the other colours down. So that's usually what I do to make a colour palette, because we just can't, you know, imagine it at the top of our heads all the time. So I think we'll go with the blonde. So I got rid of that. And we'll use the blue for her dress instead. So if we go with the blue, this blue, and we'll put that underneath here. And we can use the blues on the dress instead. So if I just map that one out so you can see the colour. So let's do that instead. And of course we can use some of she could have blue flowers in her hair. We can move things around so we can use them together. And I think blue does look, it still looks nice even as a dress. And because we're kind of at this stage now, we can start thinking about other colours that we want. Maybe we can think about the background just so we can plan things. So let's have a look and see what that would look like. Now I like that already. Let's see what, so that's the mauve. See what purple would look like. No, I don't like that. Don't like that at all. Maybe the green. Yeah, well, I think we're going to end up going maybe for this colour as a background. But of course, at the same time, we're going to have all these different lights as well. So we're going to have some yellows and some lights for the candles. So we'll be able to bring some extra colours in here as well. But I think for a base, for our, you know, our first night working on it, I think we've got quite far. Skin tone is done and we've decided on a colour for the hair, the dress and the background. We can use the purples and the greens on the flowers. So that would work if we could use purples, the greens and the blues. And I think that's pretty well mapped out right now. So it is 9 PM here in the UK. So I'm going to leave it here for the first part of the live stream for this one. I'll be putting another one up for Thursday. I think I'll be doing on Facebook a Thursday and a Sunday night. That'll be how I work out my live stream. So the second part of this will be available. I'll be back Thursday night, 7 o'clock. And then we can continue in from this point. I'll make an event so you can see it, so you know that it's definitely going to be on and I'll be around. Any questions or any comments or anything you want to talk to me about, feel free to send me a Facebook message. And I will see everybody again on Thursday at 7 PM. Thanks a lot for joining, guys. I'll see you later. Bye.